Hi everybody, it's Miss Mika with Keep Cott County Beautiful. I hope y'all are having a great day today. I know I am. We're gonna do a little bit of review, okay? So we've learned a ton of stuff this year. We have talked about litter and how to prevent litter. We've talked about what litter is and why people litter, and we've talked about bad habits that people have. We've talked about beautification efforts, how that you can beautify things through murals and planting flowers and planting trees, and even just giving an old building a facelift by giving it a fresh coat of paint. We've talked about how to manage our trash. If you saw one of the videos, I brought trash from my house and laid it out on the floor and we went through it, and we talked about what we could reduce, reuse, and recycle, and we call those the 3 R's. And we talked about how that is the order in which we need to think about handling our trash, managing it. We first need to see what we can reduce, then we look to see what we can reuse, and then we look to see what we can recycle. So that's actually what we're going to review today, because we've talked a whole lot about recycling. We've talked about recycling our plastic. We've talked about recycling aluminum. Miss Greta did a video with you on recycling paper and making new paper. We've given you recycling facts about aluminum and glass, and you've seen videos, hopefully, of a materials recovery facility. So we've done all kinds of stuff, but we're going to do a little bit of review and test our knowledge, okay? So I'm going to give you an object, we're going to name it, and I'm going to give you a second or two to think about in your mind, what would you do with that piece of trash? There's not going to be a right or wrong answer, okay? We're going to look at, should we reduce, should we reuse, and should we recycle? So there's no right or wrong answer. Some of them may even have more than one answer. But we're going to think about, what could I do with that piece of trash, and with the mindset of that I want to make less trash. That's the whole goal. What are we going to do to make less trash? Because we've talked about when we make less trash, we're saving space in a landfill. We've talked about how it saves our county money because we're not sending as much trash to a landfill. So we want our landfill to last a really long time. So what can we do to not send so much there? Okay, so the first object I want you to think about is an aluminum can. So maybe you like Dr. Pepper, or maybe you like Mountain Dew, or maybe you like Sprite, or Coke, or Pepsi, or I could go on and on and on. But anyways, so it's an aluminum can, the kind that pop open. Okay, so let's say that you guys had a party at school or a party at home, and you got to have a soda, you got to have a Coke or a Pepsi or a Mountain Dew or a Dr. Pepper. What are you going to do with that can? Should you reduce? Should you reuse? Should you recycle? Which one would be the best? So let's think about this. How could I reduce? Well, instead of buying aluminum cans, maybe I could buy 2 liters and then put them in reusable cups, but I still have that container I'd have to deal with too. So can I reuse an aluminum can? There's a lot of people who do really cool crafts with aluminum cans, but I'm going to tell you that you need to wait till you're older, because aluminum will cut you. But there's all kinds of people who make like airplanes and all kinds of cool stuff, but we don't want you to get cut. So you could reuse it, but what do you think the best solution might be for this one? It would be recycling. And we talked about in one of our other videos that when you recycle an aluminum can, it's back on the shelf 60 days later as another aluminum can. Is that not amazing? Like, you can recycle it today, and 60 days later, 2 months later, it'll be back on the shelf as another aluminum can. And aluminum has no limit to how much it can be recycled. It can be recycled over and over and over and over and over. So when next time you drink a Dr. Pepper or a Coke or a Sprite, you could be drinking from a can that was made from aluminum that was mined out back in the 50s or 60s. That would be really cool, wouldn't it, to think about that it could be that old. But aluminum has no limit. And we talked about too that aluminum comes from bauxite ore, which you have to mine from the ground. And so anytime that you get anything from the ground, that causes pollution. So if we can save people from mining in the ground by recycling, we definitely need to do that. A lot of people do recycle their aluminum cans because that's the one thing that you yourself can take and get money for. So that is a good option for that aluminum can, is to recycle it. So the next thing I want you to think about is a plastic bottle. Maybe it's that 2-liter that I was talking about, that 2-liter of Coke or Pepsi, or maybe it's a water bottle or a Gatorade bottle or a Powerade bottle. Maybe it's a ketchup and mustard bottle or something, you know, just any kind of plastic bottle that you have at your house. What could you do with that? Should you reduce? Should you reuse? Or should you recycle? Okay, so no right or wrong answer, so let's think. Reduce. Can I reduce my trash? If I'm drinking water, I could, couldn't I? Because I could just not buy bottled water. Some people have to because they don't have good water, but there's a lot of people who do have good water and they still buy water bottles. So I could, you know, use a reusable water bottle to put my water in instead of buying bottled water. So that would be a way to reduce. I could reuse it for a really cool craft. We've done that before. This summer we made a spirally wind sock type thing. It's still hanging up on my porch. But anyways, we made that out of a plastic bottle. So you could make something out of it. Or you could also recycle it, couldn't you? Because most of our plastic bottles that we drink drinks out of are a 1. And we know that 1s are recyclable here in our county, so those could be recycled. So actually that could be any of them, couldn't it? Okay, so now I want you to think about a cereal box. Okay, so maybe you had Fruit Loops, or maybe you had Apple Jacks. My kid's really weird. She likes shredded wheat. Most kids don't eat shredded wheat, but she does. But anyways, so you have this cereal box. What could you do? Should you reduce, reuse, or recycle? You could reduce. You could buy your cereal in a bag that comes just in a bag and not in the box in the bag. That would be a way to reduce. You could reuse it. You could use it to wrap gifts up and let everybody think that you got them a box of Fruit Loops for Christmas, right? Or you could recycle those. Those will go into your mixed paper. Not cardboard, because cereal boxes are flat and there's no layers to it. So that would go into your mixed paper. So you could actually do either one with that. All right, the next one is a glass jar. What would I do with a glass jar? Should I reduce, reuse, or recycle? It's kind of hard sometimes to say that you could reduce some things because you may really need something that comes in that glass jar. So what could you do with it if you couldn't reduce it? Could you reuse it? Could you take that jar that had pickles in it and use it to hold something else around the house, like maybe buttons or beads or something like that? Or make a cool pencil jar or something like that? You could do that, couldn't you? Totally. And you could also recycle it, but unfortunately around here we don't have recycling available for glass. The closest place we have is Knoxville. And I know it's a really long drive. So maybe the best choice would be on that one is to reuse. All right, so what about a milk jug? Reduce, reuse, recycle. We kind of need milk. Milk's good for our bodies, right? So maybe reducing is not a good option there. But could you reuse it? You could make a really cool craft out of it. You might be able to clean it out really good and use it to have water in case the power goes out or something like that. But can you recycle it? Absolutely, because it's a number 2, and we said that our number 1s and number 2s could be recycled in our county, so you can recycle that. All right, so what about a paper egg carton? Can you reduce, reuse, or recycle? Well, eggs are good for us too, so maybe reducing is not the best because we need to eat eggs, right? They're good for us, they have protein. Okay, so what about reusing? You could make some cool crafts out of it. You could pass them along to people who have chickens and they could put their eggs in it instead of throwing them away. And since it's a paper egg carton, you could also recycle that. It would go into your mixed paper. All right, now, what about the other kind of egg cartons, the polystyrene, the puffy ones, the styrofoam ones? What could you do with those? Can you reuse those? You absolutely could make some cool little crafts. This summer, Miss Greta and I made all kinds of cool little crafts with egg cartons that were so cute. Can you recycle them? Styrofoam's not recyclable here in our county, but you know, I did go to Publix over in Greenville a couple of months ago, and they have a place where you can actually recycle your styrofoam stuff, your egg cartons and your styrofoam meat trays and all that stuff. So if you're over in Greenville, you could always take them over there, or you can always pass them on to somebody else who has chickens, and they will appreciate it because they probably get more eggs sometimes than they have egg cartons. I know it's the case with us, and we give people eggs and then we don't get our egg cartons back, so we're always looking for egg cartons. So let's think about this other thing, a piece of lumber, a piece of 2x4. Okay, so maybe it's a little piece that's left over from some kind of building project. Can I reduce that? If I really needed to build something, probably not. I needed that piece, that whole piece that came with it, okay? Can I take that small piece of 2x4 and can I reuse it? Absolutely. I can use it to make for another project, or, you know, like my little girl, she goes and she collects them all and she uses them for building blocks. When her daddy's building stuff and he's cutting stuff, she gathers all that stuff up and that becomes her building blocks. So you can reuse it. Can you recycle it? Well, we don't really recycle wood. We do paper and stuff, but there's really no place to put wood. So probably reusing would be the best option for that. Okay, so what about a steel soup can? Like maybe you opened up a can of beef stew, or maybe you opened up a can of corn or a can of green beans. What are you going to do with that? Should you reduce, reuse, recycle? Okay, well, food is really hard to reduce sometimes, isn't it? Unless you make your own stuff from scratch. Reusing, can you reuse that soup can? Absolutely. There's all kinds of cool crafts on Pinterest and on the internet and stuff that you can make with those little soup cans. Can you recycle it? There's nowhere around here that takes soup cans, unfortunately. So we really have to find out, you know, how can we reuse these things? All right, a plastic food box. Maybe it's like the boxes that your sandwich meat comes in that you buy from the store. Sometimes they come in those plastic boxes. Should you reduce, reuse, recycle? Well, unless you're going to cut out eating sandwich meat, there goes your reduce. Okay, reuse. Can you reuse that box? Absolutely. That's like my Tupperware. That's what I use for my leftovers, and that's what I take my lunch in when I go places and stuff. I reuse those boxes. Can you recycle them? You can do that as well. Some of them are 2s, a lot of them are 5s, and we don't take 5s around here, but there are some places that do take 5s. But you can do that, do either one of those. A reusable cup. This is Miss Greta's cup right here, but it's reusable, right? Okay, so what do I do with that? Reduce, reuse, recycle. Well, it says reuse in its name. So guess what? I can reuse it. I can put water in it, or juice, or coffee, or whatever I want. So I definitely want to reuse that. Can you recycle it? Some of them are aluminum. You probably could. Some of them are plastic. Depending on the plastic, you might be able to recycle them. But remember, we talked about look at the bottom of the container and look for the triangle and look for the number inside. If it's a 1 or a 2, it's recyclable here. Some of those guys aren't. Some of them are like 7s and 5s, and we can't recycle them around here. What about a plastic bag? Reduce, reuse, recycle. I can totally reduce my plastic bags. I can take my own shopping bags to Walmart or Food City and load my groceries up in my own shopping bags and reduce those plastic bags. I can reuse them if I wanted to. A lot of people use them to put in their smaller trash cans. And I can recycle them. I can take those bags back to Walmart, to Food City, to Lowe's. There's some dollar stores over in different cities and stuff, like Greenville dollar store recycles trash bags. So you can take those plastic bags back to the grocery store and they will recycle them for you. What about a reusable cloth bag? I don't have one here, but anyways, the ones that we take when we go shopping. It has reusable in its name. And I'm using that cloth bag so that I can reduce the paper and plastic bags. So I am going to reuse that bag until it absolutely falls apart, and then I'm going to try to sew it back together so I can use it some more. But can it be recycled? Plastic has a limit to how much it can be recycled. It can be recycled so many times and then it starts to break down. So once you've made a reusable bag out of that, sometimes it's really hard for it to be recycled beyond that. The director at Empower-Cott County found a place that takes cloth and stuff, which those recyclable bags are made out of plastic, a lot of them. But they actually found a place in Knoxville that recycles old cloth and things like that, and they make it into new materials. But that's all the way in Knoxville. I know it's kind of unhandy, but you can always drop stuff like that off at the Empower and they'll send it on to them and keep it out of landfill. So that's always a good thing too, but we always need to try to reuse as much as we can. So there's none of those things we just totally got rid of, did we? We either reduced it, or reused it or recycled it. So that's what we need to think of when we think about our trash. How can I reduce? How can I reuse? And how can I recycle? So before I go, I'm gonna sing you a little song about reduce, reuse, recycle. And it's to the tune of The More We Get Together. And I know you guys have heard this song when you were little, okay? Because it goes, the more we get together, 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 the more we get together, the happier we'll be. So that's the tune of it, okay? So we're gonna say reduce, reuse, recycle, recycle, recycle. Reduce, reuse, recycle, it's easy to do. For your world is my world, and my world is your world. Reduce, reuse, recycle, it's easy to do. If your world is my world, I'm gonna take care of my world, so that means I'm gonna take care of your world, and if you take care of your world, you'll be taking care of my world, because we all need to have a beautiful place to live in. That's why it's so important for us to reduce and reuse and recycle and to not litter, because we need to take care of our planet. We only get one, and we only get one shot at it, so we need to take the best care of it we can for other people to enjoy, okay? So let's see if we can remember this song, all right? Reduce, reuse, recycle, 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 reduce, reuse, recycle, it's easy to do. For your world is my world and my world is your world. Reduce, reuse, recycle, it's easy to do. All right, guys, I'll see you all later, okay? I hope you have a great day. Bye.